The work of researchers is becoming increasingly diverse. Currently, researchers are often required to network, collaborate, and interact with different colleagues from different environments, including multidisciplines in academia, industry, public, and policy makers. The question that comes to mind is, how do we do these effectively? Transferable skills. What are they, and how do we develop them? To get answers to these questions, we have Dr. Kate Horn, the Director of Brunel Graduate School, with us today. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and welcome to Research Live.
Thank you.
So to kick off, what are transferable skills?
Well, in a nutshell, they're skills that help you to develop your career. They're sometimes referred to as soft skills. We tend these days to refer to them more as professional skills.
And Kate, in your opinion, which of these skills do research need?
Well, there's an organisation in the UK called VTI, which was set up by the research councils to look specifically at the skills that researchers need to develop. And after a lot of consultation in the sector, they've come up with what's called the Researcher Development Framework. I've got an example here. So they've divided the skills into 4 broad categories of the kind of skills that they think that researchers need to develop. So those cover knowledge and intellectual abilities, personal effectiveness skills, engagement and influence and impact, and also research governance and organisation. So those that kind of encapsulate the range of skills that researchers need to develop.
So on a long term, on a career planning perspective, why do we have to acquire those transferable skills?
Gaining those kind of skills make you a more effective researcher, and they also help you build your career longer term. So if you think about the example of a research leader, it's not simply about being good at research. In order to get a major grant, they're going to have to network and collaborate with colleagues. They're going to need to understand the funding councils and the funding arrangements and how to cost a proposal. They're going to need to be able to communicate their research ideas in a really persuasive way to persuade the funders to support the research. And once they've obtained a grant, they'll have to manage and lead others. They'll have to manage budgets. They'll have to keep the project on track. They'll need to understand the regulatory framework within which they're operating, the ethics, the legal issues. And then once they've completed the research, they'll need to be able to communicate the results with a range of different audiences, not just academics, but industry and government and other stakeholders. So those kind of activities draw on a very wide range of professional skills, and that's why it's so important to try and develop them.
So do you envisage this transferable skill to be important also for a change of career, meaning to move from academia to industry, or anyway policy making, for instance, or anything?
Absolutely. The range of skills that you develop as a researcher are exactly the kind of skills that lots of employers are looking for. They always talk about wanting communication skills, negotiation skills, leadership skills. All the kinds of things that we focus on as the development of a researcher are very transferable, and in fact that's obviously where the name comes from. What can be a struggle for some researchers is to articulate to a different audience the skills that they've developed and how those are useful. So I think that reflective process of actually understanding what you've developed as a researcher and being able to show prospective employers that those are actually really, really valuable skills.
And to go a bit more in deep, how can these competencies be developed?
I think it's important to focus on the learning and not just training. There are a number of workshops and training courses available, and those can be a really useful starting point. But it's important to remember that you need to actually practice the skills. So getting out there, going to conferences, talking to colleagues is an excellent way of practicing a lot of the skills. At Brunel, we've got a number of face-to-face courses and workshops. We've also got a number of online materials that can be studied in people's own time. But it is a starting point, and you have to engage in the mindset that you want to develop.
As the development of these skills seem to be a process more than an event, what time or what amount of time do you recommend researchers dedicate to developing these skills?
Well, as a rule of thumb, we talk about two weeks in a year, or you could think about it as a day a month or something like that you dedicate to your own development.
Thank you very much. We hope with that level of dedication, our researchers could develop their transferable skills. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.